What is up, everybody? Hoang Zero here, and today we have for you all the new EX2 format tier list. Joining me today once again is Zero Raven, who is the other person that helps me run this channel. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up, guys? Zero.
Alright, so we will be rating a bunch of decks that we think are going to be prevalent in the EX2 meta, as well as a couple fan favorites, because I know, we get comments here and there that are like, hey, what about this deck? What about this deck? So we're just going to knock it all out in one go. We have put all of the decks in chronological order of when they were first introduced, so starting off all the way back from the oldest popular archetype, or competitive archetype if you will, back in BG4, we do have D-Brigade all the way over to the EX2 with ending on Leomon. So, kicking us off, let's talk about D-Brigade a little bit. D-Brigade is, as you know, a rush style of deck. They have a lot of bodies that float into other Commandramons and whatnot, and that's a really cool playstyle, and of course they will be getting support in EX3, but we're not here to talk about EX3, we're just strictly looking at the support they have up to EX2. This deck, while it does have a lot of rush potential, unfortunately doesn't have a lot of card draw to keep replenishing the tank. And while yeah, you have the Commandramon that when it dies, check top, top 3? I believe it's top 3, right? Check top 3, call a Commandramon out. Yep. Sometimes it just whiffs, and if you whiff on that, then you're actually just down a bunch of tempo. And right now, the format is kind of in an interesting place. So you have a triangle format, essentially, right? So you have control decks, you have decks that beat control decks, and then you have Imperial that beat the anti-control decks, and then control decks that beat Imperial. So you have a triangle going on. D-Brigade kind of loses to the control part of that triangle, and the control part of that triangle is actually a really huge part of it. Not only that, but you probably struggle into Imperial a little bit as well, because Pyldramon bot decking your Commandramon rather than popping is a really, really big downside to everything. Do you have any thoughts about D-Brigade?
No, I don't think about D-Brigade.
Alright, fantastic. So, I think in the grand scheme of things, D-Brigade is probably going to be our first deck in Tier 3. Of course, when it gets the EX3 support, maybe we'll revisit it. But until then, I'm not too optimistic about this deck. But coming up next, revisiting what it was known as the best deck of BT5, we do have Lord Nightmon. Lord Nightmon has actually received significant upgrades in EX2 using the Sakuyamon engine and whatnot. So we got a lot of new cards like Renamon, Sakuyamon, and of course, Green Plugin. So what these cards have added to the Lord Nightmon deck is a lot more combo potential. Your ceiling has gotten a lot higher. Previously, in BT7, we saw Lord Nightmon using Electric Rush in order to attack multiple times, because Lord Nightmon herself is not once per turn, as well as the Anju Womon ESS, which is not once per turn. So now, rather than having to rely on Electric Rush, we can now rely on Sakuyamon. So Lord Nightmon, swing, call Nightmon, evolve Sakuyamon over the Nightmon, restand Lord Nightmon, and then go all of it again. Green Plugin also allows you to digivolve into a Lord Nightmon for 2 cost, and if you have Renamon, then it allows you to go into Lord Nightmon for 1 memory. That's super efficient. That combo is really strong, but unfortunately, the downside to Lord Nightmon is that it is a deck that doesn't have a lot of inherent security attack pressure. You do generate a lot of bodies, but if those bodies get cleared out, then it does feel really bad, and you're not racing your opponent super hard. Sure, you can run cards like Red Plugin to give you an additional security attack, but then you're adding more cards that only function if you have a Tamer, and that can be a little bit bricky. And the other downside to Lord Nightmon that I do see is the fact that it is a combo-heavy deck, so you will be needing to see a lot of your pieces, and if you don't see those pieces, then the deck can feel a little weak. But your pros are, of course, you have really strong removal in form of DP-, and you can summon a lot of bodies. Off of 1 Sakuya, you're spitting out 4 bodies, which is absolutely huge. Deck overall, it's very high tier 2. I personally think this deck is really strong. I think it potentially could be really good going forward in the EX2 meta as we develop. There are a lot of different ways you can build this deck. Whether or not you decide to run Rika and Talmon, I think is up for debate. Rika Talmon, while it does increase your ceiling, unfortunately it doesn't synergize with Lord Nightmon's on attack ability. So kind of have to decide whether you want to play the TK or you want to play the Rika package. Any thoughts on Lord Nightmon?
I thought you put it in Tier 1, because you keep running to everyone this weekend saying 4.
Okay, so little story time. So I was playing Lord Knight Sakuya actually in Philadelphia. I was playing Lord Knight Sakuya because in testing it was doing really well. Like it was actually doing very well. So I'm playing Lord Knight Sakuya. We go to round 4, and I'm going first versus Imperial Dramon. We win the dice roll. I draw my opening hand, and I open 1 level 3 and 4 level 4s. And I was like, okay, this is a little bit cursed, or whatever. I draw for Evo, and I draw a level 4. I was like, that's not great. Okay. Evolve for 1, I draw into another level 4. By the end of game 1, I draw into 9 out of my 11 level 4s. Go into game 2, whatever. Reset the mental. Opening hand, 1 level 3, 4 level 4s. It's absolutely doomed. I draw for Evo, it's a level 4. I draw for Evo, it's a level 4. It's a wrap. We almost bring it home. I hit an ice wall. It's donezo. Alright. Going next. Jesmon. Unfortunately, Jesmon didn't really receive any major updates. And Savior is still at 1. Probably the worst deck on this tier list. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I don't see a reason why you would play Jesmon over any of the other red variant right now.
Yeah.
Even, to be honest, even like B tier 1 Wargreymon seems like a much better deck than this.
Yeah, like Red Omnimon is probably better than Jesmon right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Alright. But going forward, we do have Agu Bond coming up. Bond of Courage. So Agu Bond, or just the Bond playstyle in general, right, is you play a little bit of Rookie Rush or Champion Rush if you're playing the Greymon promo, and then you go into the Bond, which burns you for 2. In general, the Bond playstyle feels a little bad right now because it's a lot easier for players to lethal you if you set yourself to 3 or lower, right? So, in general, it's really hard to make a tempo Bond play. The format isn't that slow, whether it's Imperial Dramon just gunning you down, or hybrids just Tamer lethaling you, or control decks trying to just healing out of your Bond lethal threshold in general. Agu Bond also it's not able to interact with hybrid style of decks. It's a lot more difficult, at least. So Agu Bond definitely is not feeling as great as it previously was in the BT6 format. So it's probably down there. But hey, at least you're better than Jesmon. So
yeah. Your strongest opener is also very prone to dying now.
Yeah,
there's so many EKs plus in the middle.
Yeah, previously with Greymon being able to swing for 7k using the promo Agumon and whatnot. In Bond format, that was fantastic because the DP threshold was so low. Nowadays, 7k doesn't cut it because there's a lot of cards that will just outright kill you. We see a return to Gold Hall style of decks coming back into the format in BT8, which means that there is just an overall increase in the DP threshold in general. So as a result, the Greymon opener is no longer as strong as it previously was. Moving on, we do have Gabubon. Gabubon, once again, as we previously mentioned, it does suffer from the fact that the Bond playstyle is just, in general, not as powerful as it once was, but still, Gabubon itself is inherently a very powerful card. Being able to swing 3 times in bot deck, a majority of a board, is still pretty good. If your opponent, for whatever reason, leaves a lot of their stuff on, they don't evo into 6, Gabubon wiping the board is still very, very detrimental to them. It is blue, so you have access to a lot of draw power, a lot of consistency, just in general. Gabubon for me is probably within the realm of B tier, albeit low B tier. I wouldn't say it's C tier. Now, granted, I think another factor we do have to consider is control is really strong. Control is very, very strong in this format. So it's also just possible that Gabubon just gets nuked in security. Maybe Pepsi? Yeah, Pepsi, right?
That was my suggestion. Possible that Pepsi could make a resurgence because the meta overall seemed to shift to being slower right now. And that means that you have more time to set up and being able to move out with your Bond and then do play the Pepsi package, but maybe lean slightly more red. Run card like Lightning Joust, run ADP, and you swing for 6 security check in 1 turn, and then maybe kill your opponent with like a hybrid for lethal or something like that. That can be a viable strategy.
Yeah, I definitely think Pepsi Bond is probably here too. I do agree with that. Yeah. All right, now Bellstar. So for those of you that don't know, actually, Zero here is the one that did the Bellstar video on the channel. So actually, I'll let you take this one since this is more in your wheelhouse than it is mine.
The deck is really solid with the addition of EX2 cards and BTA purple cards. Because in general, you have more mill option overall now. Also, the switch of the deck to playing blue tamers and using Kokaido spread to get around of a lot of these, say, armor kind of effect. And how we are starting to see more protection type effect in the meta and that kind of thing, and also it deal with anti-deletion effects. So Kokaido spread is just a very efficient removal, especially with dealing with decks like X-Antibody. And the deck overall is just really solid, but it still has that inherent issue that the old Bellstar deck has. Is very bricky. Sometimes you play this deck and you open 4 to 5, 7 cost option and you just kind of cry to yourself a little bit because the deck is forced to run so many. You run like 15 on average, 7 cost option, and you're basically playing like a pseudo security control. But overall, being able to get to late game Nailbone and setting up a huge whiteboard for Nailbone Lethal is very powerful still. I would put it high tier 2. Realistically, this could be 1.5, but given what we've seen, and it's not like an unknown deck at this point, right? Like, people have been playing it in BTA meta.
Yeah, my bad on that one.
Because some loudmouth went on Twitter and told everyone about it.
Well, I didn't just go on Twitter. I also went on Facebook. Okay, give me some credit.
Right. So yeah, this was a list that got tested, and people saw the post, and I'm sure people know about it before that point, but it kind of got popularized from there, and it started seeing more play, but it still hasn't gotten the result that you would expect from a tier 1 deck, or even a tier 1.5 deck. So right now it just feels very rogue. So I would put it in tier 2.
I definitely do agree. I think the thing that's like you said, I think the thing that sets it apart from other control decks is the fact that late game Nailbone spam is absolutely crazy, especially into decks like X-Antibody, Imperial, etc. Like, just it's absolutely spitting out 4 bodies, including blockers, is really strong. But there's not enough data to support it. It's probably high tier 2. It's probably like up here with like Lord Nightmon kind of area. I definitely do have high hopes for the deck as we move forward throughout EX2 format, which I don't know how much longer that'll last, given that BT9 is quote-unquote supposed to come out in July. But I think the introduction of some of these new EX2 cards from the Beelzemon side of the things, I think could really accelerate the deck. Coming up next, a fan favorite. I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised at how many people really like this deck, but Diaboromon. Now, Diaboromon is one of those decks that we always go like, it's like low tier, or low tier 2 or like high tier 3 or something along those lines, right? And then it always gets a top in a format, like just randomly, whether it's like a top 8 or even like a tournament win, whatever. I think Diaboromon actually has a lot of really good matchups, surprisingly, into this format, right? If you're playing into decks like Security Control, or decks like Mastemon, or just decks that rely on destruction, having Decoy on all of your tokens is actually really, really huge. Not only that, but into Blue Hybrid, you can create a more, unless they open like Double Innocence Blizzard, you create enough tokens to outpace them stunning you out. You create enough blockers to wall out cards like Pyildra, Ancient Greymon OTK, X-Antibody, etc. Just in general, I think Diaboromon actually, weirdly enough, has a lot of really good matchups in the format. Unfortunately, you do lose to Rapid Hybrid. On average, your tokens will hit 5,000 TP, which is the perfect threshold for Rapidmon to blow you out. And you are still kind of a slower deck, so you are prone to getting smacked by cards like Armor Rush, right? Or Imperial Ultramon if they open well enough.
Yeah.
So really, I think this is probably better than Pepsi-Bon. Although that's not saying a lot, they're pretty close to one another. But I actually do think Diaboromon is a tier 2 deck. I'm optimistic it could potentially perform, right? I think with Beelzemon and Gallantmon also becoming a lot more popular in the format, this deck should have a pretty good matchup into them, right? Because, you stop a lot of their removal, right?
You don't stop Gallant removal.
Do you not? Does it Gallant reduce to 0? Does Gallant reduce to 0?
No, but you just pop all the decoy on swing.
I mean, they're all going to be 5k intervals, right? So you can only pop one.
No, you because you have Rice Raymond minus.
Okay, no, you're right. Okay,
and then
yeah.
you also have increased threshold, and
Okay.
also your sources are because Gallons increased your DP deletion threshold by 2,000.
Right.
And also on top of War Grab being 1,000, that means if you have the new Growlmon and the new Gilmon, which delete 3,000 from sources. Also, you can also play Gamamon, which also have on deletion while attacking. Those will all pop up to 6,000. So you can like if you have a proper stack, you can clear up like 4 or 5 token on one swing.
Okay, that's fair. I totally didn't think about all the different inheritable source skills that would be proccing on that swing. But no, you're totally right. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, I'm sold.
Yeah. Also Crimson Blaze.
yeah, of course, Crimson Blaze. Okay, Machine Dramon, fan favorite deck. Unfortunately, you're passing over a ton of memory. It's inherently really slow. This is pretty tier 3. Yeah, I don't know. There's
wait for EX2.
Yeah, wait. I mean, it gets support in BT9, although it doesn't really change much.
No, I don't think the BT9 support is quite good.
Yeah, I don't think it is either.
Yeah, Chaos, the new Chaos Dramon in BT inside.
Yeah, the new Chaos Dramon looks pretty good. Yeah. All right, Ancient Greymon OTK. This is the deck that Chungmin and I made back in BT7 specifically to beat the hybrid format. The entire concept of it was to capitalize on slower decks, or just a slower format in general. It's really strong into control decks, which, hey, our meta has suddenly shifted to being control. So in theory, the deck should be really, really, really strong into the control style of format we're in. The thing that stops it from being outright tier 1, in our opinion, is it's a red deck. And being in red inherently means that you are prone to bricking for whatever reason. Because what is red's primary source of draw power? Rowdy Rocker is your best draw card?
You do have Fireball now.
Yeah, you do have Fireball. No, that's fair. You do have Fireball.
Yeah. I think the deck is... I think red as a color is faring better, but the issue is like a lot of your draw power require attacking.
Right.
And this deck does not want to move out and attack. You're just building and raising. So if you're missing a very specific piece, you actually delay your gameplay a lot because you're then forced to move out and maybe sometimes swing with and lose a piece that you want to hold onto. And that can be a problem. So maybe it's a 4 memory boost angle.
I mean, I was playing 4 memory boost in my list.
Yeah, and 4 memory boost, 4 fireball angle.
I was in my original list. I was doing 4 mem boost, and Chung was also doing 4 mem boost. But I only played 2 Grav Crush, and Chung played 4 Grav Crush. But that's also because Chung really likes Grav Crush. So,
yes, sir.
Nonetheless, I think Ancient Greymon OTK is a very, very, very strong deck. It does really well into the format. But it's not consistent. It's not super consistent anyway. And sometimes you just get ran down by rush decks, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes Imperial Dramon or Armor Rush, or just those decks in general, will just beat you down to the ground before you can get all your pieces. So because of that, this is what I'm saying, right? This is a triangle we're talking about. You have control decks that beat control decks, and rush decks that run over the anti-control decks, right? And the control beats the rush decks. So I think this is our first tier 1.5. And I know we've previously never done a tier 1.5 on this channel, but I think because we're in a triangle format, I think it makes things a little bit more spicy. I would say for sure.
Well, also, I think the game has had long enough to develop to a point where the nuance of a 1.5 in the tier list is probably necessary.
Yeah, so tier 1.5 essentially acts as a gatekeeper sort of tier, if you will. A lot of the tier 2 decks, if you can't beat 1.5, it's really hard to break into tier 1. I feel like it's like pretty fair. Like, what do you think?
I don't like to use the term gatekeeper. That's why when originally we had gatekeeper.
Yeah.
I switched to the 1.5.
No, that's fair.
It's more so decks that are close enough to being really competitive with tier 1, but they're just missing like one tiny piece. If Red Ancient was just consistent, it would be a top 3 deck in the game, in my opinion.
I mean, for sure. I mean, because you have the security bombs, right? You have the Atomic Blaster, you have Crimson Blaze. Of course, you're relying on security bombs as your defensive mechanism, which isn't fantastic. If definitely the deck was more consistent, it would definitely be top 3 deck in the format. But unfortunately, it's not. It is still inherently a go tall deck. So yeah. Blue Hydra.
It did have 2 top 8 it had 2 top 8 in Philadelphia. So
to be fair, it paired into Security Control and Moste, which are insanely favorable matchups. To be fair,
right, but also
yeah, it got there. It got there.
Arguably, some of the most popular decks in the meta, right?
Yeah. Which is what we're saying, right? It has really good matchups into this format.
Yeah.
Okay, Blue Hybrid is. I would say Blue Hybrid is probably the player base's least favorite deck at this point in the game, right? Even more so than yellow as a color, Blue Hybrid is probably the bane of most people's existence. I think it goes without saying, Blue Hybrid is a tier 1 deck. Like we don't even need to wait for it. It's by far the most consistent deck in the format because it's blue, and blue is just privileged like that. Like everything you do just casually draws a card. Whether it's Davis, whether it's Kiaromon or Upamon, whether it's Beowulfmon bouncing back to resources, the deck is just consistently good. Innocence Blizzard is a huge buff the deck received in BT8. Even though Jogras gets out of the freeze, generally speaking, you are able to still generate enough advantage to hold out onto the game. And once they make their Jogras play, then you can freeze them out going on from there. Overall, the deck is really good. You do lose to D-Reaper, and you do lose to Rapidmon, which are, I think are going to be really big decks going to the format. But versus Imperial Ultramon and Moste, I feel like you can relatively skill gap them, right? I think armor is really favorable. Decks like Black War Greymon, you beat X-Antibody. It has to be a good X-Antibody player to make it into a skill matchup. Otherwise, on average, you're probably going to beat them just because Tommy is a crazy card.
Remind me, is there any solid blue removal that doesn't count level?
In BT8, is there? I don't think.
That's the reason you lose the D-Reaper is because you cannot remove the Gatekeeper, right?
Yeah, you have to rely on a Zulongmon to bail you out in that, or a Susano, a Zulong or Susano to bail you out of that situation.
Right. So
let's find out. Let's find out real quick.
Because if you can tech for that problem, then it might not be quite doomed to the D-Reaper matchup.
So
because in theory, they still have to play a lot of bodies on board, so you get all of that advantage from having a body with no sources.
All right.
Nope.
Rattlestar. If you return one flat out if they have 3 or more Digimon. You could technically Rattlestar the Gatekeeper to the bottom of their deck. Maybe this is the tech.
Yeah, maybe 3 Rattlestar, 2, 3 Rattlestar.
You could also Absolute Blast it back.
Interesting.
Maybe the hype.
Yeah. If D-Reaper become prevalent, maybe that is the tech.
Yeah, actually though, like you actually do have outs to D-Reaper. Interesting. Okay. Well, food for thought, I guess, for everyone that's watching this video. But yeah, green hybrid, not Christmas, but pure green hybrid. So we trashed on pure green hybrid a lot back in BT7, but I actually do think the deck has received some significant buffs going into EX2 format. Not only do you have new top-end tools like Shivamon, who, again, Shivamon inherently is a good card. The rest of the deck just sucks, okay? Don't put me on the stake for that one. But Shivamon is a really great top-end in green hybrid. Not only that, but you also have a lot of new EX2 cards that make the deck really good, actually. The additional Terriermons, especially the one that gives you memory whenever you play a Tamer, means that your Rapidmon plays are a lot more consistent, which feels fantastic. Kalumon being a 1 cost when you play and you have a Terriermon on board, and then you can use Kalumon to facilitate additional draw power, and then you can also run Alice not only as a Tamer, which counts towards your Rapidmon, but also to turn Rhino Kabuterimon into a free on-swing Evo, because you can just pop like a Kalumon, for example, or pop just like one of your fodder Digimon. That is also really, really, really strong. So essentially, you are Digivolving into Shivamon, or Ancient Kabu, or even Ancient Troyamon for free. That's great. Fantastic. Do you have any thoughts?
No, not particularly. Although Gummymon does make the deck a lot
also,
better too.
Also Gummymon, additional card draw is fantastic. Gummymon is, I think, Green's first card that just draws it a card.
You have the one from BT7.
Pinamon?
Yeah.
Okay, that one's a lot harder to get off than Gummymon, though. So.
Of course. Yeah.
So at Philadelphia, there's actually a squad, like an actual squad of like green hybrid players that just rolled up. I don't know if it was a coincidence or if they just were actually a group, but they all rolled up with the same deck. They all rolled up with the same damn deck, the Calumon, Alice, Terriermon deck. And one of them got folded by our friend, who almost played Bellstar. That would have been really unfortunate. If he plays Bellstar into Shivamon, that's an L. And the other one was undefeated up until I want to say like round 4 or round 5, I think. Because I know.
I think it was round 5 because we were actually at the table talking about it. It's like, hey,
yeah,
you know, there's green hybrid is undefeated right now, and we're like, what?
Yeah, actually. So I think in general, I think EX2 actually buffs green hybrid quite a bit. It's probably up here in the upper mid tier of tier 2. Cherubimon. Cherubimon is a cult favorite, I would definitely say. The Church of Cherubi, stay strong. Cherubimon, I mean, it receives a couple of things in BT8, like the new yellow Cherubimon, for example, but like, I think the biggest thing that stops Cherubimon from being a really strong deck is not only is Imperial Ultramon the absolute bane of your existence, because, well, A, you Mega Death Cherubimon, and actually all the value is lost. Pyldramon bot decks a bunch of stuff, you get rushed in, it just sucks. Armor Rush is also just really difficult to deal with. Black Wargreymon pops all your Tamers, you get the idea. X-Antibody, you can't pop there, or you... Whatever. There's a lot of really bad matchups in EX2 format for Cherubimon. Also, you have no way to kill D-Reaper either.
Although Alice is now an option for you.
Right, Alice is one of the new additions that Cherubimon does have. I was talking with one of the original Cherubimon copers, who goes by Duty the Clown over on the Hoang Zero server. And he was actually talking about potentially experimenting with red-based Cherubimon rather than yellow-based Cherubimon to give you additional security pressure. And hey, maybe that works. Who knows? Crimson Blaze go crazy, right?
Yeah.
But I think, at the moment, until it's, tested and proven to be better, unfortunately, the god himself, Cherubimon, is going to lie dormant in the Tier 3 territory. Now, we are finally in BT8, which for a lot of people, this is their favorite format. Imperial Ultramon is the poster boy of BT8. When you think BT8, you definitely do think Imperial Ultramon. Imperial Ultramon, for a while, it was definitely top 2 decks in the format. It was really up there. The deck is crazy high roll, crazy aggro. It just pops off like nothing else. It is by far the highest high roll in the format. But we got to a point in the format where everyone's like, hey, I am tired of playing into Imperial Ultramon. I am tired of this dumb dragon rolling me over. And so everyone started playing control decks. And this is where we got to the triangle part, where now a bunch of decks are just built specifically to smack Imperial Ultramon into the ground. So Imperial Ultramon is now no longer a Tier 1 deck. It is within the Tier 1.5, I would say. It's too good to be Tier 2. It's still too good. The high roll is still too insane. But I don't think it's a Tier 1 deck anymore, just because everything in Tier 1 feels like it was designed to smack the hell out of it. Right.
Also, remind me, has Imperial won a single event?
I think it won 1 or 2. It did win 1 or 2 in early BT8, but after the meta settled down, it hasn't won an event since.
Yeah, it get fooled by Rapid.
Yeah, Rapid's a really bad matchup. Security Control's a bad matchup. Moste nowadays, I feel like you have to high roll into it, otherwise it's kind of rough if you don't close out fast enough. Armor is a bad matchup because Magnamon just walls out your plays. Just in general, it feels really bad in control decks.
Yeah, it's also not great into some of the lower tier deck. Like you can realistically beat this deck with Gallant,
right?
Or Bellstar even. Or even Sylphie is actually favorable into this deck because you keep removing your board.
Yeah, Sylphie's favorable. Bellstar, Gallant, Lord Knight Sakuya, just things that have strong control elements, right? That's the reoccurring theme here that keeps Imperial Ultramon down is all the control elements. I realized Imperial Dramon, I got a comment on YouTube. Somebody said that the way I pronounce its name is weird, and now I'm self-conscious about it, but nonetheless.
Yeah, even BLs is a potential problem for this deck because sometimes you get pyro by the auction or in the mill, and you lose your board.
Right.
And then you lose the race because they're just equally in helmet deck.
So just in general, I think a lot of decks, we've gotten to the point in the format where everyone just hates Imperial, they want to keep Imperial down, and so decks are just designed to put it down. So, it hurts the deck's viability a lot. Because realistically, you have your triangles, sure. But the odds that Imperial runs into an anti-Imperial deck rather than an anti-control deck is a lot higher. So the likelihood that you dodge control decks is not very great. So I think 1.5 is fair.
Yeah, it just also you can argue it doesn't have the result to be a tier 1 deck because it is a deck. I don't know if you noticed a trend with tournament result, but what I saw from a number of events is that this deck would make its way into top 16 and then get absolutely folded by Yellow Hybrid or something like that, and then you maybe see one make it way into top 8.
Right.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the representation that a tier 1 deck like Yellow Hybrid does.
It reminds me of Lord Nightmon back in BT5's conversion rate, if you noticed. Lord Nightmon, if it is very likely to get to top 16, but the moment it got to top 16, it would just randomly lose to black, it would randomly lose to green, etc. Right? Just all these different decks would just absolutely fold Lord Nightmon back in BT5. But don't want to dwell on this point too much. Next deck is Mastemon. Mastemon is by far the hardest deck to play in the format. It is the player gap deck. Mastemon, 80% of the time you're just playing out of the brick, and then the other 20% is you popping off in your opponent. Once you get the engine going, Mastemon feels untouchable almost. I feel like Mastemon has a few bad matchups here and there, and then everything else feels skill gappable, right?
Yep.
I think Mastemon is a tier 1 deck. I think this deck is very, very strong in the hands of a good pilot, but I think it's because of that skill ceiling. I think that keeps it from being best deck in the format or anything crazy like that.
It's also inherently kind.
Not even kind of bricky. It is bricky.
Well, if you talk to Ying and Hayes, they would say it's not as bricky, but I don't know.
I mean, so Hayes, who recently he got first place at Swiss in Philadelphia. He went 14-0, did not drop a single game on day 1. If you ask him, he goes, "Yeah, if my security was dog, my hand was cracked. If my hand was dog, my security was cracked." Right? But the recurring theme is one of the two was just bad, just bad. And even then, I feel like he was playing a less greedy. He was playing a less greedier version of Mastemon, right? Because he was playing the Mem Boost, he was playing the TK to dig for pieces, etc. Right?
Yep.
Alright, and he also played double analog youth. But yeah, Mastemon having so much removal, so much board expansion, so much pressure in general makes it a really strong deck. Going forward, we do have Armor Rush. Armor Rush, unfortunately, gets folded by a lot of the control decks in the format, because a lot of those control decks just happen to have DP-, which is the bane of Armor's existence. But Armor is still a heavy rush deck that sometimes if it just opens on your opponent, it'll just beat them to the ground before they can do anything. Like Fire Rocket kind of go crazy, So I think, realistically, the potential high roll you can do keeps it from being a tier 3 deck, because obviously it's better DB grade for sure. But it's definitely nowhere near tier 1. I would probably put it in the lower end of tier 2.
Really? I feel like it's probably almost as good as Bellstar or Green.
Okay, sell me on it.
Okay, into decks that doesn't have strong security, it can just absolutely run them over.
Do you not think predominantly you are likely going to run into a deck with strong security though? Because I feel like you are. I feel like
it depends.
I feel like you have to kind of luck out on the draw, or I say the draw, but luck out on the matchup RNG to get into non-bad matchups, right?
I think this format particularly is diverse enough to where you have a pretty good chance of not running into enough of those decks for this deck to be viable. And even again into some of those decks like Yellow Hybrid, you can potentially open a Pyro and just run them over.
You just opened the Fire Rocket, right?
Yeah, that happened to Joy. He played Yellow Hybrid into Armor, and Armor completely fooled him by opening Fire Rocket early.
They opened 3. They opened 3 Fire Rocket.
It happens. But, like I said, I think this deck can be really, really fast, and it is very scary if it gets the right pieces early. Like, it's not even that difficult to open Ken Davis 2 armor and a Fire Rocket with jamming V-Mon, right? Like that's 4 security of like that 3-card combo.
That's a lot of pieces you just asked for.
Is it?
I mean, you asked for Fire Rocket plus jamming V-Mon plus an armor plus Ken Davis. That's 4 cards.
I don't think asking for any armor in an armor deck is like asking.
Okay, but what about the other 3 remaining pieces?
You play 4 Fire Rocket, you play 4 jamming V-Mon.
All right.
Like the odds of you opening at least like 3 of those is pretty high.
All right. Here. I'll meet you in the middle. It's better than Diaboromon.
Yeah.
All right, close enough. All right. Sylphimon.
I can't believe you put it with and green.
I don't know. I'm kind of on the green hybrid copium train. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be above. It really does not matter to me in the grand scheme of things. I think they're pretty.
No,
they're pretty close.
It really doesn't matter. It's pretty funny. It's mid to high 2/2.
Like they're pretty close to one another, honestly.
Yeah.
Sylphimon itself, very, very good card. Very, very good card. Unfortunately, Sylphimon, the deck, runs into 2 very big issues. Issue number 1, you can't interact with hybrids. And suddenly Sylphimon's entire niche is down the drain. Problem number 2, your top end is really bad. Your best top end is War Greymon, playing into control format.
Yellow War Greymon.
Yeah, yellow War Greymon nonetheless. That's not fantastic. I mean, sure, you could run Hero ADP. Cool. Then what? You know, it's not. I mean, at that point, I just play Ancient OTK. At that point, you just play. I mean, I could just literally shove Hero ADP into anything, bro. I'm just playing worse Gabumon.
This deck would have more merit if Imperial is literally everywhere, and that's the only deck you see.
Yeah.
Because at the very least, it has more control factor. But what the heck do you do into yellow hybrid and blue hybrid and security control? Like what?
Or even Mostate, right? Like it's just.
Or Ancient. What boy are you removing against?
Right.
Ancient?
Yeah. Like versus Imperial. Yeah. You send Imperial to the Shadow Realm, sure. But versus everything else, especially hybrid, it's not great. All right. Arguably the most annoying deck of the format. Yellow Rapid Hybrid. Ooh.
It's not the most annoying deck in the format.
You think it's blue?
No, the most annoying deck in the format is Security Control.
Oh, okay, but people haven't caught on to that deck yet, so it's fine. Currently, this is the most annoying. All right, until people catch on to Security Control, then it becomes the most annoying. Right, but Yellow Rapid Hybrid, the deck has Recovery, it has Hybrid Lethal, it has Strong Removal. It just has a lot of things going for it. It's also pretty consistent for the most part because you have Zoe plus TK to search for your pieces as well as Bokomon.
More importantly, it has tournament results to back up.
Yeah, it has a lot of tournament results to back it up. I think it's not crazy to say this is...
It is the best performing deck we've had so far in BTA. Right?
By far.
But not even by far, right? Not even a close one.
No, it's not, nothing's even remotely close. It is by far the best deck. Like, okay, I won't say the best deck in the format. I'll touch on that in a little bit. But I do think the deck is really, really absolutely insane. But also, it does really well into Blue Hybrid, which is a great merit. It does well into Imperial. It does well into a lot of lower tier 2 and below decks. And
man, this looks suspiciously like BT7 meta.
It's almost like Hybrid is a crazy mechanic, huh? Kind of weird.
Well, I mean, I don't think we really have to say much about Rather Hybrid. The deck hasn't changed, but do you even add anything in EX2 to this list? I don't think so, right?
Into Yellow Hybrid? No.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah, there isn't really much to add.
Okay. Shakomon. Shako Armor is... I think it's a really interesting deck. It has healing, it has control, and it's Jogress. So, you know, all 3 of those things, it sounds fantastic. So why isn't it better? Well, because it's an Imperial... It's boneless Imperial. TBH. It is just boneless Imperial. It's Imperial Ultramon without the high roll. Because ultimately, your top end, it's Imperial. You're spitting out the same components. So why, despite being a boneless Imperial, I mean, like we look at the fact that the format
it's still an Imperial deck.
Yeah,
it has all the strong plays that Imperial have access to. It's just doesn't push as hard, and
No.
by not pushing as hard, it loses even harder to
Like control the style of decks and whatnot. Yeah.
You don't even have that factor where Imperial randomly can high roll another control deck.
Yeah.
Like a random control deck because it opened really well and the security check was really good. Like Shackle doesn't have that factor. It's just way too slow.
Right.
In comparison. So it is what it is.
All right. Now Shivamon, the notorious hated deck by Hoang Zero. Like I said before, green hybrid with Shiva Toppin, pretty solid. Shivamon itself, without a hybrid, just like playing Climbon and stuff, it's not great. I mean, you can beat Bellstar in security control, and sometimes you beat Yellow Hybrid. But oftentimes, if you run out of ways to suspend Shivamon, then the deck suddenly crumbles, and just Digivolving into Shivamon is a pain because Climbon and all of them are not very fantastic. Are you? Do you disagree with this? Like, are you going to contest me for Shivamon?
Oh, I don't care.
All right, fantastic. Great talk. All right, X-Antibody. X-Antibody, obviously we're not in BT9 yet, so we don't have Moriyukin, and we don't have new Alphamon and whatnot, but X-Antibody had a lot of things going for it. It has built-in removal protection from destruction, it has security pressure, it has cards like Kota and Yuji to give it additional consistency. So why did X-Antibody flop? Well, let's ask.
Wait. I remember a certain YouTuber said this was best deck in format.
Yeah, I did. I did this. Okay, listen. At the time, the deck was testing very well. It was clapping the shit out of Yellow Hybrid. You could skill gap Imperial. It was doing pretty well. Why did X-Antibody suddenly stop doing so well? So in my opinion, and people watching at home and whatnot, you may or may not disagree. The format shifting to a lot of DPR removal, as well as the more decks just running Chaos Degradation. One, that feels bad because both of those get through Oryumon's protection. Sure, you can Breath of the Gods and stop the DP minus, but you're not always going to open Breath of the Gods. Not only that, Chaos Degradation just absolutely blows you out of the water, and Maste plus Security Control are both running that card, so it feels bad. 2, you're still a go tall 6 deck, you're playing black, etc. The deck is a little bit slow sometimes. So decks like Armor Rush, decks like Imperial, they will just run you over. They absolutely just run you down. Now, with all that being said, I think the deck is it can still be strong. You have a really fantastic matchup into Ancient Greymon OTK because you can just block whatever swing they go for. Blue Hybrid, on average, it's Blue Hybrid favored, but if you're a good enough X-Antibody player, you can definitely skill gap the matchups by spamming UG to get a lot of value and deny Blue Hybrid their value. And sometimes if Maste just doesn't open the degradation, then you'll punch him in the face. But realistically speaking, this is probably a tier 2 deck.
I think it's the best tier 2 deck.
Okay, listen, I put it below Lord Knight Sakuya because I like Lord Knight Sakuya. Yeah, it's probably the best tier 2 deck. It's almost there. If the format didn't have as much removal that gets through Oryumon as it did, it would definitely be a lot better.
If it has a card that evolves on top of Oryumon, it'd be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a level 7, evolves for 7, gives you back 7 memories. Something along those lines could be really good, huh?
Maybe like swing twice, multiple checks.
Yeah. Honestly, maybe give him a level 6 that also de-digivolves while we're at it, and also grabs pieces.
Or maybe like a really efficient tamer. Really efficient.
Honestly, we could also just throw in some black-purple support so they can start picking up pieces from the trash.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a tier 1 deck.
Yeah, it's probably a tier 1 deck, huh? Weird how that works. Alright, moving on. Black War Greymon. This is one of those decks that actually got a lot better as the format developed, especially now that we're in EX2. Because of D-Reaper being a popular deck, specifically because it's so cheap and easy to pick up, Black War Greymon absolutely booty claps that matchup. Why? Because Metal Greymon lets you swing into the Mother D-Reaper. So then if you kill their Mother D-Reaper, they lose all their value and the deck suddenly sucks. Not only that, but also having a favorable matchup on average into hybrid decks, except for Blue Hybrid, that matchup is doomed. But just in general, having favorable matchup to like Yellow Hybrid or Green Hybrid or even Cherubimon feels pretty good, right? Popping Tamers.
Wait.
Oh, what's up?
Is this the best tier 2 deck?
Probably is. It probably is the best tier deck. I'm not gonna lie.
Actually, now that I think about it, it's probably better than X-Antibody.
I agree. I actually do think.
Yeah, with the meta shift.
Yeah.
It's favorable into you definitely beat Yellow Hybrid.
No, 100%. You beat Yellow Hybrid. You can run Black or Grandma promo ADP so that you suddenly can OTK control decks from 7. I think that's really, really fantastic.
Yeah, you're able to slap Security Control. You're able to beat Maste. Maybe not super reliably, but you can definitely beat Maste.
Yeah, I mean they have to hit Maste plus defeat to like snipe the Black or Grandma.
Your worst matchup is actually Imperial, and Imperial actually see Let's Play. This might be a very relevant deck.
Right. So, let's ask ourselves, why are we putting this in Tier 2 and not Tier 1.5 or not Tier 1? Well, folks watching at home, the answer is really simple. It's awful at drawing cards.
It's red.
It is terrible.
It's red and black. The two color just doesn't draw that much cards.
Whoa, they draw more than green. Okay, hold up. Give it a little bit more credit than that.
Yeah, but I mean, drawing more than nothing is still not much.
Sure. Alright, so what do we mean by that? Like, because you're probably like, oh, but Nokia gives you so much consistency. Well, all of your quote-unquote tempo plays, they neg you. Because Nokia forces a rookie out of your hand, and now that's one rookie less that you're going to be able to evolve with or make plays with in the future. And if you don't play a rookie off of Nokia, the Nokia takes 4 evolutions to gain value off of her. That doesn't feel great, because at that point, you're playing Takumi Aiba, and we all know how terrible Takumi Aiba... Not Takumi Aiba's... what was it? God, what was the Tyrannomon Tamer's name?
I don't even remember.
What? It was the dude from Redigitize. What was his name? He had the he had the goggles, he had the sweatshirt.
Was it in 1.5?
He was in 1.5, yeah, he was in 1.5. I guess technically he was in 1.0? What was his name? You know what? This bothers me. Give me a sec. This actually bothers me. Hold up. Taiga! Oh my god. Okay, yeah, it's Taiga. If I couldn't remember his name, I was just gonna say Willis, because Willis is also the same example. Also Yoshino, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
Point is, the deck, all of your tempo plays inherently make you negate card value, which sucks.
Oh no. I don't think that's subjectively correct.
Not card value, but
what's... neg a rookie from hand. The issue is none of your searcher grab a rookie.
Yeah.
If you had a card that is literally BT07 Huckmon that says grab another Huckmon, right? The issue is Agumon do not grab Agumons. So when you're playing an Agumon and you're grabbing the rest of your engine, you're developing a body on board, but sometimes if you don't draw into another rookie, you have to be very careful in the way you play. But even then, you get screwed by RNG mid game where you just lose your first initial stack to removal.
Right.
And you have to develop like 1 or 2 rookie to play your Nokia and whatnot, or even just search for your pieces to make your first stack. You run into issue mid game where I just don't have a rookie. And I've had that happen multiple times where I just couldn't draw into like a 3rd or 4th rookie to make a second stack, even though I was very close to closing out the game. But then I got my stack removed, and then I couldn't evolve a rookie, and then I just lose the tempo from that point onward.
And I feel like we're going to get a couple of comments that are like, oh, that just means you're not playing the deck properly. And then the question then becomes, well, if you're not playing your rookie off your Nokia, then like, what is Nokia really doing for you in the grand scheme of things? 'Cause at that point, it's just worse Gravity Crush.
Yeah, I was also playing the BT6 Tie Tamer, which get you additional draw and memory. So I was cycling through the deck a lot, but
even then, right?
Even then, it didn't feel great.
All right, moving on.
Then the deck is very solid.
Yeah, I think it's super solid. I think it's probably the best tier 2 deck in the format, just because of its matchups into the meta. Being able to this is the deck that this is the anti-control deck that we're talking about with Ancient Greymon, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Creepy Loop. Creepy Loop is actually pretty interesting. Being able to deck out the control decks in the format is actually really, really cool. Unfortunately, it's in purple, so it's inherently a little bricky. And your offensive pressure isn't exactly fantastic. So sometimes you just get randomly gatted down. Right? What do you think? Like, this is probably more in your wheelhouse once again.
I have not tested as much as Tesla did, obviously.
Right.
What I did play with, the deck feel very good. You do have that benefit that the security control deck has, that when you get to the end of the game, you can avenge kit to stack the bottom of your deck.
Right.
And basically manipulate your security from that point onward with like Lucibon healing and whatnot. But the issue with, and maybe this deck is better now, but I remember the issue Tesla mentioned was that he was having issue into aggro decks because of how slow this deck can be, so he had to cut important combo pieces to play more temple card to deal with aggro. But maybe with Imperial being less popular, this deck can have more room to shine. But the issue now is you deal with blue hybrid.
Yeah, that's not fantastic. So yeah, it's probably like up here in the higher tier
like
2 range.
Blue hybrid and ancient OTK are both problem for this deck potentially.
Okay, so moving on, we do have security control, and security control. It kind of emerged late into the format, right? It's the list specifically piloted and made by all the people like KVN, iChance, etc. Right? You know.
I don't know how much you pay attention to Japanese result, but this list, this security control, not the version not exact same as the version that's been playing in right now. I don't think the Japanese list play that many Mimi. I can't recall, but I've seen security control pop up in BT8 meta in Japan.
Okay, that's completely fair. Yeah, I definitely do think security control is actually in contention for top 2 decks in the format. I actually think security control, it only has like 2 bad matchups, to be honest. Maybe 3 if Black War Greymon gets lucky enough, but unless they see ADP, it's definitely your favored.
Black War Greymon definitely fold this deck 100%.
Oh, actually you pop Mimi's, right? Yeah, okay, no, that's fair. Okay, yeah, so you have 3 bad matchups. 3 bad matchups. Oh, it's not bad.
Yeah, because what you do is you just pop the Mimi and you set up a second stack. And you can just OTK someone from nice security. It's the same. It loses to Black War Greymon the same way it loses to Ancient Greymon.
I mean, I think Ancient having Alderman inherently built in for the ADP, whereas Black War Greymon has to dig for the ADP. I think there's a little bit of a difference there, but yeah, like just in general, like the game plan is still the same. I definitely do think that security control is really, really high up here in tier 1, though. Your bad matchups are Blue Hybrid, Ancient OTK, and Black War Greymon. Everything else, I feel like, is either very easy or definitely doable skill-wise, right?
Blue Hybrid is a nightmare.
Yeah, Blue Hybrid is fucking nightmare fuel for this deck, because, oh my god, everything just bounces, everything stuns, your Magnet Angemon never crashes, so you can never Hell Scythe it back. It just sucks. It feels really bad. Yeah,
you actually have quite a few, you have several Doom matchup in the meta. The Master matchup is a skill matchup, where it definitely allowed the Master player to play really well. You have a much easier time playing into the Master player, but that matchup can also turn on you, depending on how well you play. So
I think on average it is in security control favor. It's just if the Master player,
but it's close enough to where you can fumble and lose.
Right, and you have a really good yellow hybrid matchup. They can never actually kill you, and you will always win the deck out war versus them.
Yeah. Demon Lore is another deck that could potentially deck you out.
Yeah, that's right, with Creepy Mon spamming and everything like that. That's pretty fair too.
Yeah, because you run into a situation where if they build enough card in trash, they can set up a Creepy to mill you before you can avenge kit and come back into the game.
Right.
So, and then you're forced to run into a situation where you have to play the avenge kit early, and especially at the master. If the master player is very conscious of this and they force you to avenge kit a little bit early and start to use Chaos Degrade to put your avenge kit into your security and don't swing, you actually run into an issue where a little bit of bad luck mean multiple of your avenge kit get stuck in security and you just lose the creep beam on deck out condition.
Right, and I think one of the coolest adaptations we did see in the EX2 format is that, well, previously they were running Bond of what was it, Bond of Bravery, Bond of Courage? I don't know. I forget what it's called in English, but
Bravery,
whatever. Bob. Now they're on Crimson mode. Crimson mode is actually a really cool addition because it gives you additional offensive pressure, being able to burn your opponent in the late game. off the Avenge Kit, right? So you play Avenge Kit, play for free more or
Well,
less.
it's not even the
Also,
big
their removal, right? The on
yeah, the
Digivolve
big question
removal.
is whatever. But
Yeah.
the big thing is you can Avenge Kill something medium or small, and then say they have 2 Digimon that's
Yeah.
equal in DP. You can Crimson and pop both.
Yeah.
Like say you need to immediately deal with like a Master plus defeat stack or something like that. Then the benefit of that's the benefit of having Crimson.
One of your most common combos is that you're gonna Hell Scythe relatively. You're generally not gonna pass the turn because you can play Mimis or Karis to make sure you don't pass the turn. Something -6 Avenge Kid, kill off the remaining DP, so now you kill 12k and below, and then you can Crimson to clear out whatever is left, right?
Yep.
I think that's really, really strong removal right there. Moving on, we do have D Reaper. D Reaper is, I would actually say this is probably the most hyped deck in the EX2 format. It's super cheap. It's like $20 to make total. It's really fun. It's a really fun deck actually. Something about it is enjoyable. D Reaper being immune to Mother specifically being immune to a lot of effects is really cool. That means it's immune to cards like Chaos Degradation, Rapidmon, etc. Like just things that would normally try to remove it.
The only way to remove it is by hitting it.
Right, by swinging into it. Which means decks like Black War Greymon, for example, like we previously mentioned, they can swing into it. You also... you're weak to Rush, so sometimes your opponent will just drop their hand, like Imperial, for example, and they'll just hit you in the face. But you do have a very, very good matchup into decks like Blue Hybrid, for example, because then you force them to have the Susano, you force them to a Zulong, or you just force decks in general to have a way to break through the Gatekeeper, whether it's a Joust or a red plugin, right?
Yeah. Also, this deck can also be very strong into security control and Yellow Hybrid also, because if you don't kill them fast enough, and you get the security control matchup actually kind of sucks a lot.
I mean, the only way you kill them in security control, right, is A, you kill the Reaper, but at that point they can make a second Reaper, or B, you. I guess just in general, yeah, you're just looking to blow up the Reaper. Yeah, that's all you can do. You can't hit Mother.
Yep, basically you need to get very lucky in your security stack and have multiple Chaos Degradation. But if they play red base, they also have access to ADP and Joust. And if they have ADP and Joust, you literally cannot win the game.
Right, yeah, it's just bad.
Yeah, and into any slow control deck, you can set up a double Reaper and just go off.
Okay. Yeah, so just in general, it's 1.5 because a lot of decks that need to break into the tier 1 threshold, it's like, can you beat... it's like it's almost there, right? Like it folds to aggro, it folds to Psychmon, swinging into it, etc. It almost has the recipe for success to get it all the way into tier 1, right?
Yep.
Okay. Galamon, your favorite deck, your favorite Digimon actually. Do you want to take this one away?
2/2.
You know it's accurate when, despite being your favorite Digimon, you throw it to the wayside. All right, where in tier 2? Where's it going?
Buffalo Knight.
Okay, okay, sure. Sell me. Let's hear it.
It actually has very solid matchup into Imperial because you're a constant board removal. You actually just beat D Reaper for free.
Yeah.
Because that matchup is, I don't know how people got the impression that this deck loses to D Reaper, but it's absolutely not true at all. People think that because Crimson cannot pop the Mother, that this deck loses the Reaper.
Well,
the Reaper, but
wait, okay, hold on. I'm gonna stop you right there real quick. I think the general consensus is the deck beats Reaper with Judgment, which you don't need Judgment, right?
No, you don't even need Judgment. Well, Judgment let you smack the Mother, but in general, even without Judgment, kind of just run them over because first of all, you can. I don't know if you noticed, but it's because Reaper has a very low DP threshold. You only have Reaper in security, and then you have the Gatekeeper, but everything else is very low DP threshold. So a lot of time you're safe swinging your lower end, like level 5. You can go to level 5 and just start swinging for 8k and start popping the board. And if you constantly get rid of like the Jerry and their board, they can't pressure you in security, and you start punching them. And on top of that, Atomic Blaster with a Galan board actually get rid of a Gatekeeper, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
And you also get your memory back.
Yeah, off the staccatos and whatnot.
Yeah, and you also actually don't even die in battle to a Gatekeeper.
Alright, so I'm hearing a lot of pros. So what's the con?
It's red. On average, this can definitely beat Yellow Hybrid also. And security control can probably be rough because they heal a little bit too much out of your comfort zone. But having access to Crimson, burning security is just in general very powerful into any deck that's security reliant. But again, this is a single stack red deck. It draws a little bit. It doesn't draw quite enough. And your issue is that once your Gallon stack get removed, your recover play is not great. You do have access to the starter deck Gilmon, which allow you to warp into a 6. So into other decks that use that go into level 6, you actually have a very powerful recovery. Like for example, into deck that delete your Digimon and you have like a Megidramon on board or something. That what you can do is have a Megidramon and force them to delete it. Once it dies, you're able to play a Gilmon and a Takato for free, and that Gilmon usually will be the starter deck Gilmon, which allow you to warp back into your level 6 Gallant into a Bliss Punish. So it's good in that sense, but the issue is it's just way too fair of a strategy, and it doesn't kill quite fast enough.
Hey, I wanted to ask, how's your X-Antibody matchup?
You run Judgment to play.
Alright.
It's actually like if X-Antibody ever really become a problem, you just run Judgment.
Yeah,
it's not really that big of an issue. Like Judgment Hero will swing over.
I know. I was just saying because I know you don't run Judgment except for like maybe one.
Yeah. The problem is you don't. The Judgment is good into very specific matchup, but it's just kind of awkward in a lot of matchup because you're already swinging over everything. You're already very good at removal.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like a very redundant card. Usually, you want to run more cards that let you pressure and end game faster. So deck is very solid in that sense. It beat a lot of stuff. Like you can run over Lord Knight Sakuya, for example, because you keep removing the board.
Mm-hmm.
It actually absolutely destroy armor because your I don't know if you know, but your deletion effect are layer. So like for example, you can swing with the EX2 Gallant, activate his on attack pop effect, make them armor push, and then activate an ESS to pop the card underneath. So into like a lot of just mid-range aggro deck, this deck mid-range and aggro deck, this deck does a very good job of punishing their board, and it's pretty decent matchup into control. It's just though it doesn't do quite enough for me to put it higher in the tier list. Maybe there's a way to make this deck 1.5, but currently I'm working on a few lists, and maybe I'll probably play this for Ultimate Cup, but until I come up with something, I think tier 2 is a very fair placement.
You know, I know it's your favorite Digimon and everything. Didn't expect you to go on about Gallon 1 for almost 5 minutes.
Hey, it's one of the new deck for this tier list.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Speaking of new decks, we do have Sakuyamon. Sakuyamon is a fan favorite Digimon for obvious reasons. It's pure Sakuya is not very good. It's not great. You rely your pop off is cool, but it's not very consistent. And even then, your pop off isn't fantastic. I think it's just a worse version of Lord Nightmon. I think it's like pretty tier 3, honestly. Do you disagree?
I think this deck is incomplete.
Yeah. Wait until Miko mode, right?
Yeah. Right now it's feel very incomplete because you need very specific pieces in order to pop off. Once you get Miko mode and you can start abusing your options a little bit more, and you have the rest of the line for Renamon from BT10 is a lot better, but currently the deck just feels very incomplete. It's like half a deck.
Yeah, I agree. Alright, Mega Gargomon. Few words. 5 cost.
5 costs.
Alright, fantastic. All the way down here you go, buddy. Actually, no, you're probably better than... You're probably like... You're like up here. It's okay.
Sometimes you see the one of ADP.
You mean HPD?
Yeah, sorry, HPD.
Yeah. Sometimes you see the HBD and everything's okay, and then sometimes you don't and everything sucks.
The payoff does not. I don't know why that card is 5 cost. The payoff does not justify the cost.
Like it's a stun and a bounce.
If it was a bounce on anything, I could see it being 5 costs. That would be fair.
A bounce on any tap target? Yeah, I can buy into that.
No, literally just a bounce. Like for 5 costs, bounce anything back to hand.
Oh, okay. You're just playing blue then.
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
Okay. Justimon. Justimon is one of my favorite Digimon. I hyped up this deck a lot. In reality, it's probably a tier 2 deck. It's probably like up right around here, I would say. The Justimon, what Justimon does best is that it has a lot of security pressure. It's actually very easy for Justimon to kill from 5 security. Justimon with Sonoriza can swing for 5. Justimon with Toy Agu plus Metal Greymon can swing for 5. Justimon with Zubagon Punch can swing for 7. A lot of different ways for Justimon to actually reach high security threshold configurations. The issue with Justimon, however, is you are a go-tall deck, so you're inherently slow. Your best source of card draw is Machine Dramon support, specifically Hagurumon and Guardramon, which isn't very fantastic. And you also rely on seeing the ADP in order to stop control decks from blowing you out. If you don't see the ADP, then decks like Moste, decks like Security Control, they can be very difficult. Decks like Imperial Dramon can also run you down like a dog. So, in general, there's a lot of things that are against Justimon, while simultaneously Justimon being able to pressure a lot is pretty great. I think because Justimon has so much security pressure inherently, it gets it really easily. I think makes it a tier 2 deck. I think Justimon, once we get Excel Arm to act as another extender, is going to maybe be high tier 2, but there are a lot of fundamental issues with Justimon, one of them being it needs tamers. If it doesn't see tamers, that it kind of just flops on itself. Anything you want to add on that one?
No, you went off about I went off about Gallant. It seems fine.
Okay, yeah, but my going off on Justimon took 1 minute. Yours took 5.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Okay. Beelzemon. It is the Light Sworn equivalent for Digimon. It is a deck. What?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say it's Light Sworn.
Yeah, it's literally just Light Sworn. I mean, you mill X card. If you mill X card, do X effect. It's like when you mill Wolf, special summon Wolf. If you mill Felice, do whatever. The deck has pretty cool highs. The lows are pretty low, and sometimes you can swing Blast Mode and then it dies in security. That pretty much sums up the deck. It's a gotcha deck. You like playing Fate Grand Order? How about Grand Blue Fantasy? Maybe you're into Puzzles and Dragon. Welcome.
Well, this is the Digimon gacha is dead, so this is the new gacha.
True. No more Digimon Links or Re-Arise. Now you get tier 2 Beelzemon. Ta-da! Any other comment? I mean, also it literally cannot beat Reaper.
It cannot. The issue with this deck is it cannot go long.
Yeah,
you can never. You're actually a very one-dimensional deck that cannot extend your game plan for too long because even you can run. Granted, you can run tools like Avenge Kit and stuff like that to stop you from decking out, but this deck inherently put itself on a clock.
Yeah.
So you run into issue where you hit a bad security on your finishing turn, and you deck out before you can recover enough to try and end the game.
I mean, yeah, if you're playing versus control decks who are actively trying to play for a deck out versus you, and you're just decking yourself out, suddenly your control matchups kind of suck.
Yep.
Yeah. Antilo Rush. Antilo Rush, the entire gimmick behind it is you have Lopmon, and you warp Digivolve into Antilomon who can multi-attack. You run red tie, so you can then joust the Antilomon, and you can get a lot of fast damage off. It's a rush deck. It's probably one of the better tier 3 decks because it has healing built into it, right? Because Suzy heals, right? I believe Suzy heals. Is Suzy or Lopmon heals?
Lopmon heal.
Lopmon heals, right?
Suzy
draws one. Suzy draws one.
Yeah, Lopmon heal if you have a Suzy on board.
Mm-hmm.
And Suzy also played the Lopmon for free.
Yeah. But just in general, it's one of the weaker rush decks because it asks for a lot more combo pieces than the others do, but it's still a rush deck, and it heals. That's pretty nifty, I guess. I don't know. I think anything in tier 3 really can just go wherever, except for Jesmon. Poor Jesmon. All right, and finally, last but not least, Leo Rush. So Leo Rush, the entire gimmick behind it is you are just throwing Leomon. Leomon's going face. You're getting a lot of rush value, and then Leomon dies, and you get resources back. You get memory back specifically. This is actually a tier 2 deck. This is actually impressively enough, like pretty up there.
Yeah, I think into a meta that has a lot of DP reduction, this actually has merits because you're swinging and your stuff die, but you get memory out of it, which let you play more boar, and it forces your opponent to deal with removal. I played to it a little bit when EX2 first came out. It's not bad. It's actually really solid.
I mean, yeah, the blue draws cards. Leomon himself makes it so removal gets punished super heavily. In general, it makes sense. It has a lot of elements that a rush deck would want, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's just pretty hyper consistent too.
Yeah. I don't know if it's better than armor, just because armor has a lot higher of a high roll with fire rockets and textured and whatnot. But it's definitely a little more. It's definitely like around where armor is, right? Like, you could move these around. It really does not matter.
I feel like the bottom half of tier 2 is pretty interchangeable. It's whatever.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's the tier list. We did it.
Yep.
It only took an hour and 11 minutes, but we finally ranked every single deck that's relevant or fan favorite from EX2.
Yeah, we added like 5 decks since BT8.
You know, we could have finished in less than an hour and 10, but someone had a rant on about Galamont. But I digress.
How long do you think our BT9 tier list will be?
That's a great question. Maybe 2 hours. Who could say? No, I'm playing. It definitely won't be that long. It'll probably be like an hour 10 at tops, TBH. But nonetheless, that's the tier list. Any closing thoughts, Zero?
EX2 is a really cool set. I know people think it doesn't shift the meta a lot, and that's a pretty fair assessment, but I think it was a very good direction for an EX set compared to EX1.
Yeah.
So, and EX3 is looking to be like a pretty good set also. I personally think it's nice to have set that doesn't power creep the game, but also add different ways to deck build in the meta. So generally, I like EX2 type of set in that manner because it's nice to have a new deck add into the meta, but then not also have to worry about, oh hey, I need to deal with all this brand new set of tier 1 and everything, you know. So it is a very nice set in that sense.
Yeah, I guess my takeaway from this, you know, after analyzing all the data, thinking about it, and from a more strategical sense, if you will, I think it's really interesting that a lot of older decks still remain prevalent, right? Obviously, hybrid is still an absolutely insane, strategy. Security control. The deck that crawled its way from the abyss and was here in set 1.5, it's still here, right? You Diaboromon, Bellstar, even Lord Nightmon, right? You have a lot of older decks that are, still to some degree relevant. Obviously, you have power creep because, you gotta push product somehow, right? And I think with BT9, which is primarily legacy support, right? It's Greymon, Garuru, X-Antibody, even Armors, right? Just in general, a lot of legacy support. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the game is going forward, right?
Yeah. When do you think Mega Zoo and Fast Omni come back to the meta?
I mean, Fast Omni, actually, technically, Fast Omni made a resurgence in BT5 after it died in 1.5.
Right.
And then we are getting Omnimon X in BT10.
Yeah.
We
can never stop getting Omnimon.
We will never stop getting Omnimon. So the odds that we get Omni Turbo back one day, I wouldn't put it past us. Megazoo, probably a little bit harder, but the 4 Dragon Trial shit's basically Megazoo, right?
Yeah.
So hey, there you go. It's back. All right. Okay. With all that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching. We really appreciate all the support that you all have provided. Hopefully, once BT9 is confirmed for July, we'll have the BT9 tier list out as well this month. So look forward to that. So thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right.